Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Ricky with Two Bit da Vinci, and it's our yearly tradition. I'm joined by Sinue from DroneQuote, one of our awesome favorite partner companies that is the best way to go solar. And we're here to talk about going solar in 2022 and all the rules and all the stuff that you need to know about it. I'm trying to make it as action-packed as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be explosive.
It's going to be explosive. All right. So go grab yourself your favorite beverage, whatever it is, have a seat, and let's talk about solar in 2022. All right, so before we begin, let's talk about DroneQuote, one of my favorite companies. And Sinue, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sinue Montoya. I started this shindig that we call DroneQuote. It's a marketplace for people that are looking to put on a new roof or put on solar. It's been in business now for 5 years. It's grown exponentially every year. We've had a lot of success, and we've had a lot of great working relationship with you and your viewers.
Yeah, it goes both ways. I want to say several dozen of you now have gone solar or gotten a battery with Sinue and DroneQuote. So if you're one of those people, leave us your comment, let people know. But what is the reason why people should go DroneQuote? In 20 seconds, go.
How easy we make it and how mindful we are of your best interests and how to take care of the customer. So in a nutshell, we're a solar fiduciary. Your best interests are our North Star.
Gotcha. And I will say, as much as I love solar, and if you guys look at my videos that I always do, everyone knows I love solar. I really don't like solar salespeople. Did I tell you when I was selling my house that this guy from a very big, I think the biggest solar installer in America, comes to my door and he's like, hey, I want to tell you about this and that and sell you solar. I was like, I'm moving. And he wouldn't shut up. And his ringing the doorbell woke up my kids and the dogs are barking. He absolutely drove me crazy. And with DroneQuote, there's no salespeople. You let like really highly qualified installers in your area compete for you. You get multiple listings and you kind of look at them all and go, oh, that's a pretty good quote. And you can go on without any of the salespeople. I hate to say this, but as much as I love solar, I really don't care for solar salespeople. They're super pushy. And if you've had that experience in the past, definitely DroneQuote. All right, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I love these guys, and we've talked about them, and they've sponsored several of our videos, and super pumped to be the official channel for your company. So
yeah, well, I mean, we love working with you. We love working with your viewers. You guys always ask really good questions, and you come very well prepared. So good on you for doing the research that it takes to make good buying decisions, when it comes to solar.
I will say, too, a lot of you just have questions, even if you're not ready for solar or whatnot, and I want to thank you for answering a ton of those questions. I know not every one of those will lead to any sort of business for you, but you still took the time. So if you have any questions about solar, I'll have his information. This guy will be your reference. He knows it all. So let's prove it now and talk about, how about tax incentives? I've been following on Twitter that Build Back Better is not going to happen now. I don't know exactly what's going on, but let's talk about like federal incentives in 2022.
Well, if we hold our breath, good things are going to happen according to policy. So everybody just take a deep breath and, write your will out real quick. But I think that in 2022, the benefits that have been in effect for now many years of, having your own power and saving on the cost of electricity are still there. The tax credits are not going to be reduced in 2022.
So what are they in 2022?
They're 26%.
Okay.
Yeah. And they will be until 2023, unless something changes through policy, which again, don't hold your breath. Yeah, so I think there's still a lot of benefit to be had on that aspect. Plus the technology is improved for now incorporating batteries to one degree or another, whether it makes sense, if it makes sense, for the homeowner to take advantage of that technology and further provide independence for themselves in the event of outages or what have you.
So the cost is probably the biggest thing people think about. Obviously, solar and batteries are not cheap. So incentives-wise, it sounds like 2022 should be a pretty good year to do it. And in terms of cost, solar is always going down in price, but we did have that pandemic. We have had supply chain shortages, labor shortages. Do you see any reasons why 2022 might be more expensive than previous years, or why people should wait till 2023?
Yeah, what I think is going to happen in 2022, at least in some part of 2022, is an increase in costs, as now the installer has started to burden those increases from the cost of employees, or the cost of fuel, or the cost of doing business across the board. Everything's gone up, right? So somebody's got to pay for it. Eventually, I think it's going to come back to the consumer.
Gotcha. But at the same time, electric bills are going to go up. Everything else is going to go up as well. So depending on where you live, I think it'll probably still make sense. And if you want to get solar and you've been pushed back, like if you had started a plan in 2021, but it got delayed in 2022, I think you should do it. I mean, you should not do it, right? It's
Yeah.
not,
I think that the biggest point that Ricky just mentioned is the cost of electricity will continue to go up, right? And in a lot of
I can
cases,
attest to that.
yeah, seriously, you can. Arm and a leg over here. What I think people will still want to sit down and look at is their cost benefit analysis. In a lot of cases, it still does make sense. Now there's legislation pushing net metering, but I think that there's still a lot of benefit for a lot of people.
Yeah, one thing about solar is that I think typically the laws and the utility companies are going to be less and less favorable. So the earlier you can get solar, the better. I made a video, which was kind of what started this entire YouTube channel, about getting solar back in 2011. And I'll tell you, it was really favorable back then.
Yeah.
Back then, if you had an extra kilowatt hour of energy, let's say at noon, and then you needed it at 8 p.m., your bill was zero. It was a wash.
Yeah.
Now it's not so favorable. Now it's more about what was the cost of it and wholesale prices and all this other stuff. So
It gets a lot more granular, more complicated.
it really does.
Yeah.
So I used to be locked in, grandfathered into that old plan, but now you guys have probably noticed, and pardon the noise, we're still recording outside. Our studio is not ready yet. But my new house, I went from 5 kilowatts of solar and a power wall to nothing.
Yeah.
And I got my first electric bill. You want to hazard a guess what it was?
$392.85.
That was, wow, almost exactly right. But the scariest part is that was a prorated 20-day
Oh, geez.
plan. So
That's so painful.
there's a pool and a pool pump, our double ovens.
They're like, give me your money.
Yeah, all this stuff, and now we're paying for all of it. And
Yeah.
there's no solar generation.
Yeah.
So
And if the power goes out, you lose power too.
yes. So okay. So let's switch gears and talk about batteries. I think
Yeah.
solar, especially in places like California, we have so much solar. The key really is batteries. So if you're thinking about getting solar, you should at least look at the battery side of it.
Yeah.
And financially,
It's
of
worth
course,
looking into.
do you gotta do what makes sense for your family? But I have a 1.5-year-old, and we had all this breast milk in the freezer. So if the power went out in my previous house, it did go out
Yeah.
a couple times. We didn't
didn't
even
even know.
notice and didn't even care.
That's right.
Because the power wall kicked in, and for 45 minutes one time, 2 hours one time, 3 hours. I think it was like a total of,
And you didn't even know.
didn't know.
You're
And
on
I
the
had
internet,
neighbors calling
browsing
me.
the web.
Right. I was making YouTube videos and everything else. Like nothing changed.
Yeah.
But now, if that were to happen, I would have to find a neighbor and go get this breast milk, because if my with kids,
Yeah, of course.
any
I
young
know.
parents, you know how
I know.
important this is. Like that early breast milk was really important. You
Yeah.
don't want to lose it. A million things. My mom and dad, who I'm going to get a power wall. Stay tuned. I'll do a video on that. But my mom and dad live in a kind of farming community in Northern California, and they have well water. So if you live where you have your own well water, when you lose electricity, you lose your pump, you lose water.
So real quick on that note, if you do live in an area where you rely on well water for your water consumption, reach out to us, please, because we can help you determine if you qualify for free batteries. All right. So we've had a lot of clients go through DroneQuote and get free batteries because of these grants that are available in the state of California and perhaps in other states because of the fires.
So fires, it could be hazardous situations that you might live in. It could be if you have
Medical
your own well
devices?
water. Medical devices. the
Medical
other one.
devices, holler
So
at me.
If you have any kind of life support equipment, anything that you need to survive, call this man. There's probably some really good programs to allow you to get batteries, either low cost, no cost, something really
Literally,
awesome.
it's what he just said. It was so good that when I saw it, I was like, listen, you're talking to somebody who has a skeptical eye for the most part. I saw it, I was like, all right, where's the catch? Where's the catch? And I looked and I looked and I looked. It's a real program that some states have in effect that you may be able to take advantage of and use for your benefit.
That's fantastic. So I have a feeling in this video, compared to our What to Know a couple years ago videos, we're going to focus more on batteries. And I think the reason why is solar is an absolute no-brainer. If you live anywhere where electricity prices are fairly high, your bill's fairly high, and you have a lot of sunshine, it's like here in San Diego, literally a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Depending where you live, email him. They have calculators. They can let you know what your buyback period would be. But solar is a no-brainer. I would like to kind of shift a little bit and talk about the battery part of the equation, because I really think that's important. We were talking before we started recording about Texas and the big freeze they
That's
had
right.
in March, April of 2021, where their utility companies were not prepared, and they blamed various things, but the reality
a lot of
is
finger
they were
pointing.
not weatherized. They were not prepared for such an event, and this had happened 10 years before that. to be honest, like I don't put a lot of faith in large corporations or governments to do the right thing.
Right, to cover you.
Especially if you have, like, imagine if I had a 6-month-old kid and I didn't have power, how helpless you feel. So
or other life supporting.
Sure.
You know.
And there's, I mean, you need solar, you need batteries, but I do think that for me, that backup aspect is really something you don't notice until you lose it. So now I don't have a power wall. If the power goes out, I'm sitting here in the dark. If I was editing a video, I'm not editing a video anymore. Like the entire my life comes to a halt.
You know, I will tell you that there's never been a better time for you to have a solution for that, you know, potential problem, right? And the best way to have a positive experience through those outages, as you've experienced in the past where you didn't even notice that the power had gone out, is to prepare for it one way or another. And that is through either installing batteries or installing some other form of backup power capacity in your home. More often than not, when it comes to solar, people tie batteries to it, so that's why we're discussing this. Although I will tell you, in my opinion, in the near future, electric vehicles, they're going to be powering homes in lieu of batteries. Prediction of mine, side note, with the huge batteries they have on board, where you could power your home for several days. All right? Now, hear me out. And then get in the car and go grocery shopping. Oh, my God. That's
all
so
without
crazy.
any sort of, without any kind of a grid or utility or anything.
Yeah, and you just plug and unplug your vehicle, and your house plugs and unplugs to the vehicle for backup power as you come and go, as you come and go.
I love that. The Ford F-150 Lightning commercials, they talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
They really hit on this.
They do.
And a lot of my viewers have said, because Tesla doesn't support it, and a lot of people have this position, if Tesla doesn't do it, then it doesn't matter.
No, it's not
I disagree. Vehicle to grid matters, not like every day. I know like using the battery cycles and not going anywhere will just degrade your battery.
Yeah.
But having that ability is huge.
To tap into it?
I have a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack. I could run my entire house. And if I could tie it back into solar and charge on solar, I could do it. Yeah, I could do that for days at a time.
Tesla won't do it
because I can't support it.
Yeah, Tesla won't do it.
I want to see all new companies, like I think the Hyundai Ioniq and a lot of these guys will do that. So
mark my words, everybody. Mark my words. You heard it here first. Well, no, you didn't. It's been all over the place. Ford is going to change the game when they come out with their reverse charging capacity.
Yeah,
big game changer. And in my opinion, now it's strictly my opinion, right? I think that having the ability to buy this vehicle with a 75 kilowatt hour battery or 100 plus in some cases, the Ford
is like 135.
That's going to power your house for literally days, okay? 5 days in a lot of cases for those lower usage houses. And it sets you back 65 grand, maybe 70 grand.
Yeah. But it's your car as well.
But it's your, exactly.
And a gas truck is not cheap either.
And exactly. And you save so much on electricity, right? I mean, excuse me, on gas. And now you pair that with, going back to making so much sense, you pair it with solar to fast charge that large battery as quickly as possible. So now you need an oversized system. And you're able to, if you have the space on the roof, you're able to really take advantage of all that power and isolate yourself from the grid in the event of outages.
Yeah. So before we switch back to solar, I want to have one more question, and that is, what are my options in terms of batteries? I had a Powerwall, and I loved it. It was the most seamless, incredible thing. But they are pricey, and they're getting pricier.
They're expensive.
And now you can't even get them without going with Tesla Solar.
Yeah.
So still a great option. They're maybe like 13,000 or so installed. What other options are there, and are there any more affordable options? Because that is a ton of money for something that's not going to directly pay you back unless you have time of use.
Correct. So the wonderful thing right now is that there are so many new options on the market. SolarEdge has a battery. Sonnen has a battery. Enphase has a battery. They have their inverters, the IQ8s, which isolate the home from the grid, and with the production of power, provide some level of backup power, right? So there are now more options than ever. But a typical battery is going to set you back roughly between 11.5 to 13, 15K. And it's going to be a 10 to 15 kilowatt hour battery. And going back to the point I just made about the vehicles, right? You have a 110 kilowatt hour battery in your car alone, and it costs you per kilowatt hour a lot less. But there are a lot of options. You know, like I said, SolarEdge is really making a play for the battery industry. LG was up and coming for a while with the LG Chem 2, the 32 or 16 kilowatt hour battery. And I don't know, they fell off a little bit. No hard feelings, LG. We love you. I still think you guys make great products.
It's been kind of a tough year for them with the Bolt and stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that, but
of course not. But I'm saying, like, they were for one point showing a strong presence, but now there's just so many players on the market. Like there wasn't. Remember, 10 years ago when solar panels were being, freely newly touted, right? There was a lot of different panel options, And as time has passed, those panel options, there's been attrition. There's in companies that have fallen out, and there's less installers. Manufacturers of solar panels. Same thing with batteries. I think that's going to happen in the future.
Solar is super, super cheap. Even the cost of solar really isn't the panel, it's the labor and other stuff. But batteries are, let's be honest, like they are still expensive. So should people be buying batteries now or waiting? I've always mentioned a lot of these systems are upgradable. You can just get solar today and add batteries later. You can add more solar later. I did that. I made a video about it. But are batteries worth it today?
So I think that's a really good question that a lot of people have. Are batteries worth it for me right now, today? And I think the answer to that question is not a one-size-fits-all. It's all relative to you who's watching this video and how you live your life in your home. All right? If you demand a lot of power for whatever the reason may be, a battery system to what you need it to be, if you demand a lot of power, may become a real sticker shock to you when you actually look at what it's going to cost. So does it make sense for that person, depending on what that source of power that is feeding, right? And then you think about how you monetize the return on investment. If the return on investment is having the capacity to live off grid in the event of an outage, come at no cost, then of course it's worth it to you, because that specific need is specific to that person and how they see the value of that. So I think that batteries always make sense if you do your due diligence and you ask the right questions and you understand the right set of expectations that you should be understanding.
Well said. And there are some people who've commented, yeah, sure, it makes sense for you where you pay so much for electricity, but where I live, it's really cheap. I will say to that point, a lot of the new communities and buildings that they're building will not have natural gas lines going to them. So entire new communities they're building in Texas even are going to be electric only. And if you think your bills are cheap now, you might have a different tune when your gas dryer, your gas range, and all these appliances, your hot water heater, these things use an unimaginable amount of electricity.
Hot water heater.
True story. Especially a tankless one.
Jeez.
A tankless hot water heater can pull more than my Tesla does at full speed.
Oh, I believe that. No. I have a water heater that's electric as well, and it's just
12 kilowatts.
An insatiable amount of power.
And if you take a 30-minute shower, that's 12 kilowatts for 30 minutes while you're showering.
So I don't shower.
Yeah, it's a very, very wise investment you've made. So when all that happens, this could change, right? Mm-hmm. So even if you don't know if it means that much to you now, the backup, emergency preparedness, and just being future ready is invaluable. And that's why I've always loved it. So now let's kind of switch gears. I want to ask you some questions about my new house. As I mentioned, I don't have solar for the first time in 10 years.
Travesty.
It is.
It's a travesty.
I fear every time I walk around my house, I'm turning off lights.
Yeah,
my
of course,
wife is watching TV and I'm like turning it off or like turning stuff off. The water. It's
the utility.
I'm kind of scarred because I told you my bill is going to be like over $400 a month in this place.
Yeah, the Brinks truck is going to roll up to collect, man. Telling you.
Absolutely. But and I'm going to get into a lot of this stuff about my house, my new house tour. I'll do that like in January. But my new house, when I bought it, it needs a new roof. The roof is not in good shape. But that was part of why I wanted it, because I made him a lower price to get the house at a cheaper price for that reason. And then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I can get a solar roof instead.
Yeah.
Right? So I might still do that. Stay tuned. I'll cover all of that and how I decide to proceed. But let's talk about a question that I get all the time. You come in here and how does DroneQuote work as far as, okay, I want to get solar panels, my bill's really high. And then you get here and how does it work?
So on a home like yours, it's a wonderful example because the palm trees are pretty high up, a little bit higher in some cases than the roof line. And it makes it difficult to get a good understanding of what kind of access you have to the sunlight, right? And what kind of roof space you have available to install panels on. So what DroneQuote does is that we serve a marketplace that helps homeowners buy solar and roofing in different parts of the United States. They come on our website and we offer them quotes through different installers in their area. And where the drone comes in is that we have drone pilots, for example, this house again, that would deploy to your property and do a survey of the roof and tell you exactly what's going on with the roof in a manner that's really accurate so that you don't have any surprises on your quote itself, factoring in the roof conditions, the roof size, shade, and electrical conditions of the property.
So if you guys came and flew a drone, you wouldn't recommend I get panels. You'd recommend I change my roof first, right?
So we would make a recommendation to you based on the factors that you share with us. So like, what are you trying to accomplish? In this case, we understand that your roof is older. Probably not recommend solar panels right away. I would say to you, think about how long you're going to live in the house and what your plans are for the house itself. And if you're going to be a certain direction or another, perhaps do put on a new roof before you put on solar.
So that can sound like a upsell, or that might make you mad, like, oh, this guy's trying to. But the reality is, if you want that level of like care, definitely reach out to him, because I've heard from viewers who had solar panels put on by some pushy salesmen who kept, you got to get them today, otherwise the price is going to go up, which never happens. Solar panel prices don't go up.
Well, actually, no, hold on. So there have been supply constraints where recently did actually happen. So that used to be more or less the case as they've gone down a lot.
Okay.
But
largely not true. Okay.
For the most part, yeah.
But I've had viewers who've been pushed into getting solar panels, and then their roof is like leaking, it's in bad shape,
it's garbage,
needs to be replaced. So question I get all the time, I have solar panels and I got to change my roof. How does that work? What will that cost me?
So it will cost you something. So if you put solar panels on that roof and you have to remove the panels to replace the roof, going rate's $150 to $200 per panel. Okay,
that's a lot.
It is a lot. It's factored over X amount of panels, right? So what we do, and it's worked out really well in the last couple of years as we really perfected it, is when the drone survey takes place, we can see the condition of the roof in real time, right, up close, because this drone's flying very close to the roof, and we can compare it to what we expect that system to how long it should last. And we'll tell you, hey, look, we can show you why your roof should be replaced, or you should hold off from buying solar if you're not planning on doing that right now, because it's not going to be in your best interest that you put solar on this roof. And we could do that, not only because it's the right and ethical thing to do, but we've built a virtual business. DroneQuote is 100% virtual, okay? That allows us to have a footprint in multiple states without having to be confined by the regions that our consultants can serve in a physical world.
Part of why I loved my experience with solar panels was I had a concrete tile roof, which lasts like 100 years, and I got solar panels put onto a good roof. And in 10 years of having my panels, nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
They were in perfect shape. And I don't know if I told you, I made a video where I pulled the numbers using like the 10 sunniest days from 2011 compared to 2021 at 92% after 10 years.
Son, that's
right. And my best panels were 94, 95.
Wow.
And I had one at 88. That's what pulled my average down.
But your average is really high.
Yeah.
For 10 years, really high. True story.
But the reason why I love solar is because I had a good experience.
Yeah.
If I had a leaky roof and my tiles were in trouble and I had all kinds of problems,
hey, let me talk
I'd
about
have
that.
a different tune.
Can I talk about that?
Sure.
People experience what Ricky just thought to himself he would like to avoid. The leaky roof, the issues where things went sideways and you're like, holy crap, what do I do now? So I'm going to talk about the ugly part of it when things do go sideways, that we've really been able to live up to the solar fiduciary title, in that DroneQuote jumps in to save the homeowner from in a situation that would otherwise be unpleasant or cause you stress. Because we have our marketplace, all right, we have two customers, all right? Now we have the homeowner, all right, and we have the installers. We want to serve both of those parties in a manner where they benefit from working with DroneQuote, because there's other alternatives that put you in a less, in a more inferior position, right? For one reason or another. What we bring to the table has allowed us to avoid those issues where an installer broke something on the roof and they didn't know it, okay? Where a system was installed perhaps the way it shouldn't have been, and we caught it because the drone survey takes place. And while I said DroneQuote is 100% virtual, the drone pilots are not, and they're spread out throughout the United States. So I'm able to deploy these drone pilots to survey your roof and get the most accurate measurements over here and give you the post-installation imagery that you need to understand what took place on your roof, or why or why not I'm going to suggest a new roof to you. Rather than, hey, Mr. Customer, take our word for it. We're going to show you. And it goes a long way. It really does go a long way, because you're able to see something you otherwise would not be able to.
Yeah. Also, it's always good to have a lot of information just to make sure that whoever's installing your panels, whoever you go with, if it's not DroneQuote or whoever it might be, it's always good to have kind of a second opinion, right? So, for example, I've seen houses in my neighborhood where the panels are installed on the wrong side, or they're installed in places where they shouldn't be. So here in the northern hemisphere, Europe, North America, we should have our panels on the south-facing side of the wall. And that's because the sun is directly overhead kind of in the summertime, and it falls further and further this way in the wintertime. So that's kind of the rough angle of where the sun's going to be. Yeah. So having panels on the northern side of your roof aren't going to help you a whole lot because you're not going to get a lot of direct sunlight there. If that's all you have, it's better than nothing, but it's not ideal, right? But these are things that you want to get a double opinion on, because sometimes I've seen houses where it's like, who installed this? Some small mom and pop operation, and the homeowner didn't know any better, but it didn't work out so well. So take your time. Is a huge investment potentially if you do this. That kind of gets to, I've always said, I like the idea of buying them myself, even if you get a loan and pay it off quickly, rather than like the leasing kind of stuff. And at this point, I think we can transition to something I did recently, which is sell a house with solar on it. And you were very curious about this, right? So I called my appraiser guy, who did the appraisals when I sold my house, and his number was $38,000 is what my solar and my Powerwall increased the value of my house, which is great. That means I got all the money, actually a little bit more than I did. I think the Powerwall is the reason for that. Yeah. The Powerwall is really popular. People want it, and it's in such a shortage of supply that I think $30,000 was really awesome. That's how much I made from my house from having.
Yeah, and for frame of reference, I think you had like an 11K system.
5 kilowatt system.
Between two systems? Mm-hmm. You had two solar panel systems. Mm-hmm. And there was total 5 kilowatts?
Total of 6 kilowatts, yeah.
Okay. So originally it was a little bit smaller, you added to it. And that's one of the things that, should be noted is that you can add to these things. You can add solar panels to your existing system. You went from a smaller to a 5, almost 6 kilowatt system, and you had 1 or 2 Powerwalls.
1 Powerwall.
Yeah. People will pay a premium for having that technology in a lot of cases, right? So I think you really, you got your money's worth.
There's a lot of people who, like when I told them I have an iPad, this is a big selling point I think. I have an iPad in my old house. I've shown it on several videos that showed the Powerwall production generation, all this stuff. And as people saw that, they were thinking, all the hard work is done. It has solar, it has a battery, I can just walk right in. That appeals to people. So
absolutely.
As far as, is it worth it? It's worth it to the value of your home, especially depending on where you live, because people know. And anybody who had solar in the past, like me, knowing I'm not going to have solar, that was a huge, detractor.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said about it. I've had solar in my previous home, okay? And my cost of electricity, I installed in 2015. My cost of electricity was not yet where it was super high, but I knew that it was going to increase, right? And this was in 2015 when California was at 14, 15 cents a kilowatt hour, right? Now, in a lot of states right now, it's sub that. So understand, it's below it's sub 12, 13 cents. But I just knew that it was going to continue increasing. So I installed solar panels, and I got a very, very attractive rate. I think my rate was 12, 13 cents a kilowatt hour for a purchase system, right? And as you said earlier, there's different ways of buying it, but it doesn't always have to just be a cash option or a lease option. It could be a financed option. And there's just different ways of taking advantage of this technology in a very intelligent manner.
Yeah, when I was 25 years old, my first panel, I got 5 panels, about a 1.1 kilowatt hour, 1.1 kilowatt system. I got a 0 interest loan on that. It was a 12-month 0 interest loan, and I read the information, and the minute the 1 year was up, all the interest would accrue all together.
Yeah.
So I paid it off within a year.
Yeah.
And my theory has always been, when I get my tax credit at the end of the year, I use that for something like this.
Yeah.
Like I use my tax credit for the battery, for the Powerwall, for solar, adding to the solar system that I had. That's kind of the thing I like to do. Like save your money all year, and the tax credit, use that for something cool on the house.
Yeah.
Like new windows or a new air conditioner or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a difference. It really does. And actually, on that point, I think it's one of the things that I always, suggest to people and coach to our team. Talk to homeowners about reducing their electricity usage before replacing it, right? So what that means is change out the air conditioning. If that is an obvious thing that's using a lot of power, look at that and see if you can replace it with something more efficient and install a smaller system, thereby being more affordable, right? Or if you were to consider improving your insulation in your home, it's going to have a positive impact on your energy usage. So making efforts around the house to use electricity and energy overall in a more efficient manner, you're going to be able to make your home more efficient in an affordable manner.
That's a really good point. When I bought this place, I had a chandelier with 8 bulbs in it, and they were 60-watt incandescent. And there were some LEDs sprinkled in as well, but I think the homeowners didn't realize they make dimmable LED. Mm-hmm. So this had a dimmer on it. So there was 60, do the math, that's like 500 watts of power when it's on.
Yeah.
And I replaced that with 6-watt LEDs, I think.
Boom.
Like from 500 to 50 watt
Yeah.
at full, and the new bulbs are brighter.
I won't even do the Sinue math on that because I'll get it wrong, but that's a lot.
Yeah, so definitely. Step one, find out what you're doing in terms of like the energy consumption. I have a video where we're going to do a smart meter from a company called Span. That's coming up. So
That's
definitely
really cool.
subscribe and stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's other things. There's like Sense. I used something else in the past that you can in real time
Manage.
see your energy usage.
Yeah.
And it becomes a fun game. I'm
Yeah, it
obsessed
does.
about
Yeah.
it. And then you combine that with solar and you'll be in good shape. There's some stuff you just can't get around.
And you know what? One thing I just hate to beat a what do they say? Hate to beat a dead horse, but I can't help but bring up with a lot of enthusiasm that we've been able to connect with your viewers on, and that is giving them advice to make a sound buying decision. It's not always about like buying the biggest system, or even buying solar or a battery for that matter. It's about understanding what it is you want to accomplish, okay? And then being able to make decisions based on that. And that's going to dictate the decision that you're going to make on technology types, whether you have the latest and greatest solar panel or inverter combination, or something else that's going to better fit your needs to accomplish what your goals are to meet your expectations.
And I love that about what you guys have done. And I want to thank you for that. I've had several viewers who told me I didn't even end up buying anything, but Sinue answered all my questions. And his final response was maybe wait until you're better fitted to try it out. But that's really appreciated, I think. Again,
Yeah.
it goes to, this is a huge decision. And I've said this on all my videos about this. I bought a really tiny system in 2011 because I was poor back then. I was 25. I just bought my house. That's all I could afford. I mean, I could have taken out more of a loan.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't do that. I don't like going into debt and stuff. So I bought a $10,000 system then. I added $15,000 additional system 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I got the Powerwall. So that was kind of my approach, was just like layer it on as you're comfortable. I've heard of people who have like $40,000 solar systems put on, and that number makes my head spin.
Well, it's all relative
if you
to
have
your
money,
usage.
if you have money and you got it, but
It's
people I'm
relative to your
talking
usage
about,
too.
yeah,
Because if you use a lot of power, you might need a really big system.
yeah.
So it's relative to that. That's in most cases.
But don't go eating into your nest egg to buy solar, things like
No,
that.
I mean,
if you can't pay your
definitely-
mortgage and you get kicked out of your house, they're
not gonna
taking your
matter.
solar panels
Yeah.
with them. So be smart and be responsible and stuff. So, and this is where I think what a lot of people lack is someone they can turn to, and that should definitely be us. Like, we talk about solar a lot.
Yeah.
And when I have questions I can't answer from you guys, this is the guy I turn to. So sometimes the answer is, this maybe isn't right for you.
Yeah, it's how
and
we
maybe
serve
it is.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we. So I've adopted something that I learned in the military. Right, in the Army, I learned servant leadership. So we know that if we serve our clientele and we do right by them, and we do everything we can to leave them off better than we found them, then we can grow as a company that has very positive ethics and values, and can grow on the trust of people. Right. So that's a really important thing for DroneQuote as as I've continued to grow the business, and through your viewership, where I could say with a lot of confidence, we will take care of people and make sure that they're better off and that they have exactly what they're looking for. And sometimes that's not solar, man, or a battery system, but oftentimes it is. So there's that. Or it's get a roof if you're going to put on solar, or the advice that you need to make a sound decision.
Yeah, but I do feel when I got my first panels in 2011, it was a science experiment. I was a very low power consuming household. I was by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm married with 2 kids. My energy usage is much
Different.
higher than it used to be.
Very
But,
different.
but for me, 10 years of, I have a confidence of solar, knowing that like my panels look like brand new. I gave them a wash before I sold the house. And I went up there and looked at them, and I was like,
Damn, son, this
10
is
years
nice.
out in the sun. Leave a T-shirt out in the sun for one day and see what happens to it. It'll like
bleached.
that black will
Yeah.
look gray, right?
Yeah.
But my panels, 10 years, it lasted really well.
It's a solid investment, man.
It is.
For a lot of people, it's a really very sound investment.
I've had some questions, like people have mentioned, like I'm actually seeing signs for people who do solar panel cleaning. I've never had to, but my house now is 2-story, and I kind of get it. Like I know, but I will say, depending on where you live, and if you have a pretty good angle to your roof, I really don't know that it's worth it.
In my opinion, I've cleaned my solar panels when I had them in the previous home several times, and I did see an increase, but it was so short-lived because of just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Right. So a decent rain, and hopefully, knock on wood, we have more of that here in Southern California. But a decent rain would do an all right job cleaning the panels.
Another question I've gotten a lot is maintenance. People think you have to maintain these panels, and I think it comes from Like if you had a diesel generator, could you imagine how much maintenance there is in those things?
A lot.
You mentioned you have an electric lawnmower. I do too. I have all electric tools. Before I got mine, I had this gas lawnmower and I hated the thing. Every year it wouldn't work. I take it to some guys like, oh, you flooded the carburetor. You didn't do this. You have old gasoline in
You
there.
got to
didn't take
refuel it.
out. You use new spark plugs. And I was thinking,
It's a lot of effort.
What is this? I use this thing like once a month, 4 months out of the year, and it's like I have to quit my job to keep on top of the maintenance of it.
But generators too, though. Like
Generators are horrible.
Yeah, I mean, short story real quick, but when I was in the Army, I was like a PFC or a young private. It was my responsibility to refuel a generator, and I just got a new Nintendo DS shipped to me, and I started playing Metroid, and I completely spaced out, and all of a sudden you hear the hum of the generator, and then it just shuts down, and my eyes go super wide because I was like, oh crap, that was my duty. Yeah, you got to refuel these generators. It's so much work, is what I'm saying.
But refueling is the easy part.
And you get in trouble. You got to do push-ups.
There's a lot more to it than that, and the tune-ups and all this stuff. Solar panels have no maintenance. Like, I don't know what maintenance people are talking about.
Very
but
little.
They sit up there and they absorb sunlight.
Yeah.
If something goes wrong and you got to address that, I understand that. And this is where I've always been a fan of the Enphase microinverters. 10 years later, they never had a minute of being down. Can you tell me that would be the same thing for a string inverter?
More than likely not, especially the older SMAs and the Froniuses out there. But the newer inverters, SolarEdge, they've made a really good inverter in the last couple of years, all right? So I give them a lot of credit for that, the way they changed. But microinverters, that's a very solid bonus for microinverters.
Okay, so we're kind of switching gears and we're kind of all over the place, but hopefully it's coming out okay. The inverter is what takes the DC, which is what the panels create, and inverts it into AC that the house is actually running on. So the two approaches you can typically have would be a micro inverter, which is tiny little inverters under each panel, which is what I had.
Yeah.
I had Enphase. The original ones were Enphase M215s.
Yep, I remember that.
The new
set, another like
IQ7.
Yeah, 370s.
IQ7s, yeah. Mm-hmm. So those were fantastic because they never had issue.
Yeah.
And it's because each individual inverter is dealing with less of a load, less heat, less everything.
That's
lasts
true.
A long time.
Physics.
Yeah. So they have like a 25-year operating lifetime and a warranty. And Enphase is a multi-billion-dollar company.
Yeah.
In fact, if I had invested in Enphase, let's not talk about that one.
Yeah, seriously. Although I did, so we can't talk about it.
Okay, well, you can buy my next inverters then for me. My birthday's coming up.
Just committed myself, it looks like.
Whereas a string inverter is more complicated because you have to run all this really high current, low voltage DC.
But it's safely ran.
True. Okay.
Yeah.
Down into an inverter where then all that inverting is happening.
Yeah.
So higher energy, higher current, higher temperatures.
More considerations.
Typically 10 to 15 year lifetimes, right?
Yeah.
Just still not bad, but
no.
I could have been in my house for another 10 years and still had nothing to do on those panels and inverter. And I'll tell you, few appliances are that long lasting. So solar is a no-brainer in that regard.
Of course, I think so.
So another question I've gotten quite a few times is, what is the best brand, or which brand should I get in terms of solar panels? We mentioned inverters a little bit, but how about panels?
So that's such a loaded question. I mean, it's so loaded because just like anything else, Ricky, you can buy multiple different options for brands for vehicles or for computers or for phones. Well, maybe not so much phones nowadays, but consumer goods in general, right? So I think for whatever kind of buyer there is, a person out there, there's a brand of solar panels that will meet those needs, right? So if you have somebody who's more economically minded, they're going to look at your Q-cell panels, your Canadian solar panels, your Jinko panels, which are not bad panels, right?
I have a couple of those.
Yeah, there you go. So they're not bad panels. It's just you're going to get different things out of them relative to what you put into them in terms of cost.
But they're still going to have 20+ year warranties and stuff typically, right?
They are. They're going to have like 20, 25-year warranties, some 30-year warranties. What matters and what really you have to think about as a homeowner is who's installing the system. That's what really matters, because even if you have a strong name behind the installer, here in San Diego, there was a name that just went out, really big name, and they were a leader in this in the solar industry here in San Diego for the last like almost 20 years, man. You know what I'm talking about. And they went out of business. So it's a matter of who installed what. So if they installed a great system but they went out of business, your workmanship warranties went out with them, right?
Did I tell you about what happened to me?
You did. Yeah, it was
my installer in 2011 out of business, and the panels that I got from 2011 were called Silicon.
Yeah.
I think there was some hip startup in the Bay Area or something, out of business.
I rest my case, Your Honor.
But you know what? It hasn't mattered. Again, I might have a different tone if I had to do something or an inverter went out.
No,
or
true
something.
story. True story.
But-
Your experience was positive because of that.
But this matters, and this is where the money comes in. Like if you buy an LG panel, I'm gonna go off on a limb.
Yeah.
Write this down. We'll review this in 20. LG is going to be
They're
around,
gonna be around.
in 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. LG is a massive company,
Yeah.
and they're really good. So if you buy like the LG neon panels, are really
Yeah,
good.
they are. They're great, man.
SunPower seems
Yeah.
to be. I think they're going to be around. Right?
Yeah.
If you buy some company you've never heard of, odds are they'll be fine. But just like anything else, if something does go wrong, that's where a lot of that's like if you buy a really high-end camera or a really high-end phone, what you're really paying for is when something potentially goes wrong.
Exactly.
And do you have a bunch of customer
Facts.
service people
Facts.
and warranty? And
Because people don't remember. So this is actually a really good point you just mentioned. People don't remember how much money they saved when things go sideways. They just remember the
Bad.
experience right now that I'm having, right? So they don't care, or they forgot. They saved X amount of money to go with that option that was going to be lower in cost, and now you're paying for it.
yeah, exactly.
Right? So, but I will say though, most systems don't have issues
No.
unless there's a workmanship issue. Most systems, in terms of technology, don't have issues.
What does Tesla use in their stuff?
Oh my goodness, they use different panels. They use Panasonic for a while. They use
Q-Cell
Hanwha.
Yeah.
I love Hanwha, by the way.
Yeah. Is
Big
it a
Hanwha
lower
fan.
end or mid or?
I think it's a great. I think it's a high end for your money.
Okay.
It's a very high efficiency, high wattage panel. Looks great. Okay, and made by a very reputable company, Hanwha in this case, and they cost you less. They cost you
Okay.
less. And listen, nobody has ever disagreed with me, so I'm going to speak for you on behalf of the viewer. All right, I believe that your money lives better in your pocket than it does in somebody else's, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you,
So just a plug for Hanwha, because I really do love them.
you know what's funny is my old house, my panels were on the back part of the house. You couldn't see them from the street. And solar salesmen bothered me twice a year.
Yeah.
This one guy comes and tells me that I should rip my stupid Chinese panels down and get SunPower, X, Y, and Z. And I was thinking, first of all, he was an idiot because I sold my house in 10 years. If I had done what he had told me, I would have been out a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if something will last for 20 years, and in 20 years, what would the landscape look
It's
like?
gonna be
They're
so
gonna be like
different, man.
1,000-watt panels.
Yeah.
And it's going to be dirt cheap. It'll be like built into your roof. It'll be a simple thing. So don't get locked in today at all. And don't be afraid of companies you haven't heard of. There are no such thing as like little operations. You can't make money making like 20 solar panels. These are made by the millions. So all these companies, they know what they're doing and they're going to be good.
Yep.
And
What the customers don't know, though, here's something I should point out, is how things are being installed. People don't see get a good eye on that. So case in point, we catch a lot of things with the drones, right? So I had a homeowner that we were going to help buy solar and roofing. And she said, hey, I got this roof quote from another company, offered me the same exact roof. And it was like X amount of dollars less. I don't remember how much.
Yeah.
Long story short, when we did the installation survey for her panels, I saw why it was so much cheaper. What they did is, instead of putting in all new metals, new flashings, new vent flashings, valley flashings, and drip edges.
Those are all the roof components to keep the water out.
Right.
Yep.
It's the waterproofing components. Mm-hmm. They repainted the old rusted ones, and they put those back on the roof. And I said, hey, listen, look, ma'am, I'm sorry, but this is why there was a difference. Because I had quoted you all new metals. They quoted you spray paint. And the vents were mismatched. There was different colored vents, 4 different colors on one dark colored roof. It looked like a cluster, but hey, she got a really good price, right? When she found out, though, she didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
But anyhow, yes, it's the things.
It's your roof. It's a really important part of your house.
Yeah, and you should ask tough questions, man. I had a homeowner recently say, hey, well, I don't mean to question you. I'm like, you should question me.
Also,
right?
the average solar, I just thought about this. And by the way, thank you. One of my installers, one of my viewers who got solar through you, told me that your post-install survey was absolutely brilliant because, first of all, the average homeowner doesn't even know what to look for. Like, if you told them, hey, did I do a good job or not, they're going to look at the roof and go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So when a professional, and you're not tied to them. Like the installer did their job.
Yep.
You're a third party. You're
We
not
are.
associated with the installer.
That's right.
So when you fly the drone and you're looking on your roof, which is a service that a lot of people won't provide.
Yeah, that doesn't exist.
Right,
Does
it
not
doesn't
exist.
exist, right.
True story.
So when you do that, and this is what my commenter said is, I forget his name. Anyway, what he said is that he appreciated the fact that you were able to go over and look at everything and give him this kind of confirmation of like, it's a good job.
8 times out of 10, it's a positive image that we get, positive result of the survey. 2 times out of 10 sometimes, okay, because it happens. We're talking about facts of life in this industry. We're doing construction on a roof, all right? High off the ground on a steep roof, carrying these weird, awkward panels. tiles are broken and they're not caught by the installer at the time of install, we catch those things. And you're not going to climb on the roof and look yourself. I mean, you may, but chances are very low that you're going to.
I would, but
yeah, but most people would not.
But you probably
on
shouldn't.
this roof right here, you probably would not.
I'm gonna get up there.
Okay, so just somebody bring this guy to a life insurance agent right now, because he's living life on the edge, quite literally. But most people
don't do that.
Most people won't, and they don't, especially those roofs in Texas that are really tall and steep. We catch things that installers miss, and we catch it before it becomes a problem for our homeowners. It blows my mind that it hasn't been emulated yet in the United States.
What people
matter of
really
time, baby.
don't understand is that the cost of solar is not the panel. Panels are super cheap. The cost is in the roof part. And put it like this.
And installing it right.
Installing it right. So I'm a DIY guy. I do a lot of stuff myself. But you remember I called our common friend, our mutual friend, about getting the roof part because I was not comfortable messing with that. And watching him work, I was like, yeah, I didn't know about this. And
it's hard work.
Process to
it's
how,
hard work.
How it goes.
To do it right. To do it right, it's hard work.
And that's where most of the cost is, actually.
Yeah.
It's in the hardware for the installation and then the labor of installing it properly, running conduit properly.
With the right components, covering up your penetrations, make them watertight, make them as waterproof as possible. It's not just a matter of, hey, there's panels on that roof now. Underneath the panels is where you don't see, this is one of those things about this industry, unfortunately, what you don't see is so important, and you don't see it. So now if we're able to bring some clarity to that and some insight for the homeowner, they better understand what took place and can appreciate it.
All right, so we've gone through a ton of information. We expect a bunch of comments. If you have questions, let us know. We will pass it on to Sinuway and get them answered. And I want to thank you for taking the time. This should be, we talked about it, and it's becoming a yearly tradition where we get together and we talk about what's happening in the industry, what we've seen so far. And I want to thank you again also. I want to say dozens. I don't have the exact number. Maybe we'd have to look it up. But dozens and dozens of our viewers have gone solar with DroneQuote. So thank you so much for that and all the questions and stuff you answer. Let's wrap this up and close.
Well, I appreciate that, Ricky. Thank you so much. And thank you guys out there, you Two Bit da Vinci subscribers. You guys have been awesome. When we have the pleasure of speaking with you guys, you're always very well educated on the subject matter. So it sounds like you're doing at least a decent job because it's sticking over there on that end.
Yeah, there's a curiosity that I appreciate from our viewers.
Yeah,
for sure.
I appreciate the quality of work that you deliver to help them do their research, because you guys are doing your research. You're asking a lot of really good questions, as you should be, okay? So we encourage you to keep asking us and everybody else that you're interviewing for these questions, right? Get into the details that make you feel good about what you're doing. And in terms of how we can potentially even work with smarter than us people, because that's where I feel I've had a lot of success, is finding people that are smarter than me and working with them. I think that you Two-Bit subscribers fit that bill. Check out our careers page if you feel that there's a future with us or that's something that we could work on together to grow out your talents and help us take advantage of those talents and grow together. Please check out our careers page on our website.
We'll have a link to all that stuff in the description. Also, two things that you guys have done that our viewers have loved. One is the EV calculator, which we'll have a link to in the description. If you want to know, how much you drive and what kind of panels you should get to try to offset a lot of your driving and everything else. Really cool resource, which is awesome.
That tool has been very well received. I appreciate you mentioning that. I get so into the weeds sometimes, I forget all these awesome things we're doing. But good point. And
the second thing is clever name. The tool that they have called What's My Price. And that is a fantastic tool, especially for tinkers like me, because what it allows you to do is change the number of panels, the type of panels, like how much they produce, and to see in real time the cost difference. Like, for example, let's say you have 400 watt panels, but then you decide, well, what if I go cheaper and I get 300 watt panels? Well, then you need more of them, and then you need another microinverter. Is it actually worth it? Do you actually save money? If you like that kind of stuff, and I have a feeling a lot of you guys do, and you don't want to keep calling some guy and having him update something, you can do it all by yourself on his website using the What's My Price tool, and that is a lot of fun. Again, really well received, and I know a lot of people have enjoyed that. So good work. It's almost like you guys know what you're doing.
You know what? Almost, I would say. Hold that thought for maybe a rain check for another time. But that tool has been really helpful to a lot of people because you can do exactly that. Manipulate it exactly how you want it. And really, let's think about this. They're the ones making this decision, right? You should have the ability to tinker and to dial it in to exactly what you want, based on panels, batteries, inverters, size of system, acquisition method, cash, finance, whatever. So it works really well. And the pun, can you believe nobody had trademarked that?
Yeah.
What's my price?
What's my price?
People always like, hey, what's my price for this? What's my price for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Easy trademark.
That's where GM got the idea for watts to freedom. WTF, their fast mode on the EV. You know about this?
No, I see, but there we go. It's a pun on that, right?
It is.
So what's my price, baby? Show me.
Yeah. So to wrap this up, anybody who's thinking about spending thousands of dollars, you shouldn't be pressured to make a decision that minute by some guy with a clipboard in your house. You should think about this. That's really where I think a third-party company like DroneQuote is in your behest.
We are definitely somebody that can help you get yourself situated with the right decisions for yourself, the right equipment, the right setup, and it would be our pleasure to serve you.
Yeah, 2022 should be a really good year with weather patterns based on where you live. We've had tornadoes and hurricanes. We have fires here, floods elsewhere. Just for backup, to be more energy independent, to save on electric bills. There's a million reasons why you want to consider doing this kind of stuff. But whatever the purpose is, I think 2022 should be a good year to do it.
True statements.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, let us know. We'll pass them on to send you away. Links to all the stuff we've mentioned in the description. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Thank you, Senway, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciated it.
And remember, the future is going to be awesome.